Welcome to the SoccerGeeks Podcast, hosted by Jason Barbato.
Welcome, everyone, to the introduction episode of the SoccerGeeks Podcast. I'm going to be your host on this journey. My name is Jason Barbato, and this ship is co-piloted by none other than Marisa Cali. Marisa is going to be our show's producer. Welcome to the show, Marisa. Happy to have you here.
Well, I'm happy to be back with you and working on another project. It's been really wonderful to work with you, and I'm super excited about this particular project, and we'll definitely get into what that is. But why don't we get into right away, like a little bit of who we are, and that will kind of explain this project altogether.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. How about you go ahead and tell us who you are, Marisa? I know I can. Everyone knows and will know shortly that I can talk for hours. But let's hear more about you. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I am a huge soccer fan. Always been in marketing, and I'm able to luckily provide my skills in this particular environment with a podcast and live show, video, all of that. You and I met about 5-6 years ago. I can't do my math.
2015.
7 years ago.
Possibly longer. Yeah.
We met because you were starting a soccer team in San Diego, and I am originally from San Diego, and I was looking to get into sports and social, and luckily I have some experience in that. So we linked up, and that brought me to managing some social media accounts, doing some email blasts, website management, all those things when it comes to marketing. And, we had a good run there with, if you're able to watch this video also on our YouTube channel, it won't only be on podcast platforms, but you'll see that I'm wearing a vintage New York City Battalion, NC Battalion.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. North County Battalion.
It's easy for me to say New York City because I used to live there. So I'm excused. But anyways, so I'm wearing an NC Battalion Forever jersey. That was actually never released, or I got this special gift from you, Jason.
That's right.
Yeah, and now I'm here, and we're producing a podcast, doing all the things, scheduling guests, and figuring out what that looks like, going forward. And super excited to be working with you again, Jason.
Yeah, I'm really excited, Marisa. I thought of nobody. I could think of nobody better that I'd rather be on a show with, or produced, or co-produced, or work on something that had to do with being creative other than yourself. We work so well together, and I appreciate all your talents. I've always been a big fan and a big friend of yours, and I have, I go back and I look at everything that we created with Battalion. Just for the people out there, I created a 4th Division soccer team, not knowing anybody or anything. I was just change needed to happen in the area that I lived in regards to soccer. And that hasn't changed about me 7 years later. That's why we're going to be doing this podcast. But what was so beautiful about that time is we've seen so many of the people that we worked with at the club go on to really big and exciting things. Working in, front office at NWSL. Nate is the voice of I don't know how many teams, both domestic and international. DK is working in the public sector now, trying to make effective changes for the soccer community in San Diego through other ways and means, which is really wonderful. And we were able to bring everybody together, use their talents, and then send people as far as their talents would take them. And it makes me so excited to be here with you on the show. And that's kind of an extension of what we're trying to do with Soccer Geeks. So just people to understand and know, Soccer Geeks, what we're developing is a digital and online application that's going to centralize data from youth to professional players in the country. We want to be able to help kind of hyper focus what we're doing in our country so that more data is available for scouts, for college coaches, for parents, for youth coaches, club directors, everybody that's involved in the space to be able to interact and to know and have a better understanding of what data is really out there for these kids that are playing week in and week out across the country. And so, Marisa, with that being said, can we talk a little bit about what the aim of our podcast is? What's our trajectory here?
Yeah, and so I mean that's a really good. It's important to bring up, because we can talk about the project we're working on, the application development of that, and but a lot of times it really comes down to discovering things about your environment that need to be changed, and that will kind of guide what you're building, right? And so
Yeah.
this whole concept came up because we're still in, the early stages of developing this, and we need to make sure that we have the right conversations with the people that are involved, with development, with coaching, with, the change. We need to talk to, for lack of a better word, the change agents that will, be able to help us facilitate, this change, not only within our circles, but in a broader sense.
Hmm.
And I am huge on having conversations, being curious about things, that may inspire change, and just kind of spreading the mission and vision of this project, but also I wouldn't necessarily attribute it to directly to Soccer Geeks and all the people that work with Soccer Geeks,
Right.
but just we love the game and we want to see the change happen. And so that's kind of why we decided to do this, and hope that you can learn some things from those who are involved. And I wrote for, a website, and it's kind of funny because I wrote for this website, Soccer Nation, with DK
Hmm.
years ago, and I got a chance to interview via email, Marley, and she's actually going to be coming up in an episode, and maybe we shouldn't be teasing that, but like
That's fine.
I've seen her from a youth level years ago, you know, getting involved in that, and seeing where her career is now taking her to the professional league, the NWSL. She just got drafted there.
Right.
And we're talking to her. And so I'm sure she's seen changes as a player, and I've seen changes as a fan, as a person working women in sports, stuff like that. So it's just interesting how, our paths are crossing again, and in ways with, multiple people that we know,
Yeah.
just from working in sports and being a fan for years and
Yeah.
years and years.
And as big as the country is, and as many people who love the game in our country, even though that the community is not as big as other sports and whatnot, it's still a really
Mhm.
tight knit community. But let me
Mhm.
let me drop the homies' credentials real quick. That's DK Aniwu, who was kind of
Yeah.
the connector for you and I. Like DK's
Yes.
probably connected so many darn people who will listen to the show. Like he's got his fingers in a
Mhm.
lot of pies, and he loves to bring people together. But that's how we got a chance to get connected, was because you
Mhm.
were writing for Soccer Nation back in the day, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, gotta give a shout out to our boy DK.
Mhm.
He hasn't heard the podcast yet, but I can guarantee 1,000,000% he's a massive fan of what we're going to be talking about. And that's
Mhm.
really what, to you, the listener listening right now, this is kind of what we want to kind of prep your head and your heart for. Is
Mhm.
what we want to do is we want to have a series of conversations with people that's really vulnerable. We're not going to really talk from a perspective of, hey, what's going on in the world of soccer today? How was that last game you just played? What do you think about the game coming up?
Mhm.
That's all for a different lane. And that's
Mhm.
really valuable. That's really valuable content, but there's a lot of saturation with that. What we really want to do is we want to invite you into a little bit more of an intimate conversation with people, talking about what they care about in regards to the game. I look at
Mhm.
each person that interacts either on a sideline or watching on the television and things like that. We're all stewards of the game being passed down and growing in this country. A
Mhm.
10-year-old who's juggling a soccer ball in your neighborhood is a steward of the game, right? Your grandfather that might have come from Puerto Rico or from Italy, that loves the game and then brought that over to the States and passed it on to the family, or from Mexico, right? That loves to still root for Atlas and things like that. They're also stewards of the game in this country, and I look at everybody as positive contributors in that capacity. We all have an idea of where we would like to see it go, but if we don't talk about where people feel it is and where it could go, from that romantic, passionate, like idealistic, creative realm, which is basically my head on a platter. But if we talk about it from that perspective of like what the game could be when we work together, I think we can paint a much more beautiful picture of not only where we're at, but where we could go when we work together. And that's a lot of what Soccer Geeks is about. Is our
Hmm.
tagline is live the game. That
Yeah.
comes out in a myriad of ways. But we not only want to see people live the game, we want to see it loved well and stewarded well, but also passed on.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. We made fun of you talking on and on and on, but you said it right. You said the words right. I felt it, and I think you were involved with the project a little bit before me, but bringing me on, I felt it. I knew that that was a good reason to get involved because we are coming together using our skills, using our knowledge, using our, having more conversations that will, hopefully inspire change and get people on board with what
Yeah.
our mission is. But yeah, so do you want to talk a little bit about how we see the podcast going, or like, if we want to give some previews on that, or
Not quite
do
just
we
yet.
want
I
to?
mean, I think
Yeah,
I want people to kind of see week in and week out and kind of be intrigued by the conversations
mhm,
that we're having with different people.
right,
But just, we're going to be talking with current and former players,
right,
professional, amateur, um, international, like playing for national team players. But we're also
hmm,
going to be talking with people who work in the front offices for MLS and for USL teams in our country, what
hmm,
that looks like. We're going to be talking with people who run youth clubs, right? We're
yeah,
going to be talking to youth
hmm,
club coaches. We're going to be talking to people who have designed products to make development happen better for kids. We
hmm,
want to be able to have those conversations of things that are really exciting in this space. We want to be able to
hmm,
talk about other people that are working in the same space that we are with Soccer Geeks. We want to talk about video technology that comes down the line.
hmm,
If it's valuable and if it's a valuable conversation in regards to development,
hmm,
whether that means for youth players or collegiate players, um, if it has to do with the pipeline in the United States to the national team, we're interested in
hmm,
having that conversation.
right,
I'll
yeah,
share. I will just share this and I'll pass the mic. I have to share this
okay,
with our audience just so people know right up front. I am a country over club guy all day long. I know you're not,
hmm.
Marissa. I know you got your clubs and you can flash the club
I'm
badges here
getting
in
there
just a
though.
second,
I'm getting
right?
there.
But I just want everybody to know up front. I started a semi-professional team in my own backyard, not knowing anybody, because I wanted at some small way to have a little fingerprint on a trail of somebody's career that would eventually be on the national team, right?
Yeah,
I don't know just yet if that's actually occurred. I have hopes for one
maybe.
particular player. He
Yes.
might have a big breakout year this year. We might see him, um, but I hope that's the case. But even if not,
Mhm,
I helped move the ball a little bit further down the field
mhm.
in my own backyard, and so that
Yeah.
was like a big impetus for me. And so
Mhm,
I know that statistically, hey, it's a 0.000 chance that any of my kids will play for the national team, but I at
mhm.
least want them to love the national team and to dream. And so
Yeah,
I want to invite everybody into dreaming with us on this show.
yeah. I mean, it's well said, and also I think it brings up, an interesting thing that we have noticed just in soccer community. You said it was a tight knit community, but everyone's kind of got their lane involved in the soccer community, but not necessarily playing. And so we're also talking to those people that have some influence in, how that will change, and like front office people and coaching and all of that. It's not just, it's got to be everyone involved in this change and not
Mhm.
just the person scoring goals, right? We're not going to,
Right.
just bring up a Messi, right? And he's going to change how America looks at soccer and all of a sudden everyone loves soccer.
Right.
But yeah, and I think it's funny because when I talk about it with you, I talk soccer, so to say, because that's what we call it here in the US. And as
You're
much
darn
as I
right.
want to call it football, we are soccer geeks and we're going
Yeah.
to talk soccer. And I think that will also open the door for potentially people that don't know much about it and don't know how it's intertwined in our communities. It's not just the kids playing AYSO on the weekend. It's like they're training, they're doing this, they're you know, getting into the front office, doing some really, really important stuff, that's not just playing the game. And I think that is the goal. And you know, you'll be able to see some of that if you listen to our podcast, which you
Not
will.
if, it's a matter of when.
Yeah.
We're hoping and banking and expecting people to be able to enjoy the
Yeah.
conversations that we're going to be having,
Right.
and that's why it's not just, we're not going to just be real cut and dry. I
Mhm.
want to try to get to the heart of the matter for people,
Mhm.
and then also, again, we talked about just being able to dream a little bit of what could be. And I love what you
Mhm.
said, that just because we're not on the field doesn't mean we can't influence the
Mhm.
direction of the game in our country.
Mhm.
Obviously, the people that are playing on the field week in and week out have a really huge say in making a very positive impact on the growth of the game in the country. But
Mhm.
there's at any time 22 persons on the field, right? There
Right.
could be anywhere
Mhm.
from 5 or 50, as we've seen at some small fourth division games that we've been to, anywhere from
Yeah.
50 to 50,000.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so if we just kind of soften our gaze and see all the people that are standing around, that are spectating, that are involved, that are influencing in the game, it would be much larger audience than what we're really anticipating. And so that's just the impetus of it. That's the real focal point for us. We are so excited that you have decided to join us, and we invite you on this journey, and we look forward to just the engagement all the way through the process.
For sure. I think, you know, this is definitely an exciting time for you and I. You know, I'm no longer local to you, but I'm still able to, you know, I'm in Tennessee, which we mentioned on the podcast. But if you didn't know, I'm in Tennessee, and we're able to do this and still make an impact despite not being, you know, 30 miles from each other
Sure.
like we were before last year. So
Yeah, technology is a
definitely.
beautiful thing. We always want to utilize it and use it. Yeah,
For
and
sure.
and again, not only technology podcasts, technology with new things that are coming out of the market to help kids and
Yes.
players develop, technology with the app that we're developing, because we think it genuinely is going to revolutionize the way and
Mhm.
galvanize the community that we have across the nation. And we're
Right.
really excited for you to join us on this journey. Can't wait to
Mhm.
get the first couple episodes out to you guys. We think you're really going to enjoy it. We appreciate you listening this far. And I'm going to ask you, the listener, the question we ask every guest that's on our show. If you could change one thing about the game here in this country, what would you change, and what impact would it have? Thanks again for listening to the Soccer Geeks podcast with Jason and Marisa. We look forward to seeing you next time. Bye bye.
Yeah, and don't forget to follow us on all the platforms.
All the
Soccer Geeks
platforms.
USA. Obviously, I'm in charge of that. So,
Yeah.
LinkedIn,
Yeah.
Twitter, Instagram. I think we're on Facebook too. But yeah, Soccer Geeks USA spelled out.